So this is literal equations. So this is page M2-91. So we're going to be writing equations in different forms. This always seems confusing to students, or this can mess some students up, just because there can sometimes be more than one variable. So let's look at, we're not going to do number 1 because I feel like we've done enough with the y equals mx plus b, but we're going to look at this equation right here. So consider the equation y equals 4 parentheses x minus 2 and determine each characteristic and then explain your work. So if I want to find the slope of this equation right here, notice to find the slope and the y-intercept, I don't know if you remember this, but we always use the form y equals mx plus b. That's always called slope, intercept form. And the reason it's called that is because your slope, of course, is your, I'm going to use a different color, slope is m, the y-intercept is the b. So it literally is written with the slope and the y-intercept visible. Well, this equation right here, notice it has a parentheses. So we actually need to distribute, and that's why we've been doing all of these solving different ways. We need to distribute this 4 so that there is no parentheses, and you're going to see that there's actually a difference from when it's written in parentheses and when it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that equation and I'm going to write it over here. Y equals 4x minus 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just use those properties that we've been using to solve. And we're not actually necessarily solving for anything. We're just going to write it in the form y equals mx plus b. So then we want to distribute, and that purple does not show up very well, but so we're going to multiply 4 times x, which gives us 4x. Then we're going to multiply 4 times negative 2, which gives us negative 8. So then y equals 4x minus 8. Now it is written in the form y equals mx plus b. So we know the slope would be 4, and we know the y-intercept is negative 8. So far we haven't talked about x-intercept, so we're just going to leave it like that for now. So this would be our y-intercept, and this would be our slope. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is where it starts getting more challenging. So we still have, notice, the same letters, y and x. We want to find the slope and the y-intercept, so we still want to get it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, like we were just talking about, but that's definitely going to be more steps, so I want to write that in my notebook. So 2.1 literal equations, I'm going to work that in my notebook where I have a little bit more room, because you guys know I write really big, or hopefully you've learned by now that I write really big. So let me just get my black pen. So we had the equation, so I'm going to say write in slope intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. So we have 3x minus 2y equals 8. We are looking for the slope, and we are looking for the y-intercept. So we haven't looked at this form yet, and that's what we're just about to talk about, but this is actually called a different form of a line, but what we're going to do is we're going to solve it so that it looks just like what we've been looking at. So this is the part where I was talking about it can seem weird to solve when you have multiple variables. But if you look, y is by itself. So we are going to try to get y by itself. So just like I've been circling variables before, I'm going to circle my variable, or the part with my variable. Make sure you include this negative. So I circled the part with the variable, and I want to get that by itself, because again, I want it y equals. So I have 3x here. So that's a positive 3x. So if I want to move that to the other side, I would want to change it to a negative 3x. Or not change it, but I want to subtract by 3x so that it cancels. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Now, this is where it gets a little weird. I can't actually subtract those, can I? Because we have an 8 and we have something with an x. So we're trying to get in the form mx plus b. So should I write the negative 3x first, or should I write the 8 first? Hopefully you said you should write the 3x because it's mx comes first. So we're going to put negative 3x. This 8 is positive, so we would put a positive 8. Bring down the equals. Bring down the negative to y. Okay, then our next step, again, it feels weird because we have two variables, but we're still just trying to get the y by itself. So if I want to get this y by itself, right now it's negative 2 times x, so it's negative 2 times x. So then I would want to divide by a negative 2 and divide everything by a negative 2. So then negative divided by negative cancel, 2 divided by 2 cancels, so I would have y equals. Now, another way to write this, and I'm just going to use a post-it note, or a note card, is negative 3x plus 8. I could have written divided by 2. So it's kind of like the backwards of distributing. You're going to make sure that you divide both of those by 2. So it'd be negative 3x divided by 2, and then 8 divided by 2. Or, in this case, what you're going to see me do is I'm going to write negative 3x, and I'm going to split it. I'm going to put over 2, and then I'm going to distribute it to that. So I'm going to make sure I divide both parts. Plus 8 divided by negative 2. I forgot that negative. So hopefully that part makes sense. If it doesn't, make sure that you ask for help. So if we have y equals, I divided both parts by negative 2. So then we're going to simplify. So we have negative divided by a negative, well, that's positive. A negative divided by a negative is positive. Then we have 3/2 x. So y equals 3/2 x. I really could leave that x up there, but again, our goal is to get the x separated, and it doesn't matter if you write the x out here to the side. Okay, then we have 8 divided by negative 2. So 8 divided by negative 2, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this right here is slope, intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So notice the m for our slope is 3/2. Notice our b is the negative 4, so our y-intercept is negative 4. If you look in your book, you'll actually see that that is called standard form. That original equation that we wrote, so I just flipped the page, notice it has the x and the y on the same side. Not that that really matters, we're not doing much with that right now, but just so you know, so it started in what's called standard form, and we changed it to slope-intercept form. So it's just writing the equation and solving for a variable in the equation, just like we did, but there's a second variable there, so you can't actually find like a number answer like you've been doing. So we're going to do another problem just as an extra example, because this is what you'll see a lot on like ACT, SAT, state tests, and all of that. So if we think about a rectangle and I wanted to find the perimeter, remember the formula for perimeter is equal to 2 lengths plus 2 widths. So remember you have length, length, width, width. So you would add, the perimeter is if I'm like fencing in a yard, it's length plus width plus length plus width, or 2 lengths plus 2 widths. So I'm going to write my equation as P equals 2L plus 2W. Let's say I wanted to solve for W. So if I said solve for W, that means I'm going to circle the part with the W. And the reason you would want to do that is if I knew my length and my perimeter, but I was trying to find my width. So let's say our perimeter was 24 and our length was 3. I could do 2 times 3 is 6 equals 24, but I still don't know what my W is, so that's why we do this. So we're going to solve for our equation for W, and then I'm going to show you why we do that in just a second, or I'm going to continue showing you why. So I have 2W. I need to get rid of this 2L. So again, just like we did up there, it's 2L, so I would want to subtract 2L, and I'd want to subtract 2L. So we'd have P minus 2L equals 2W. Okay, continue to solve for W. So it's 2 times W, so the opposite of multiply by 2 is divide by 2, and divide everything by 2. Break that up, so it'd be P divided by 2 minus, and then minus 2L divided by 2 equals W. Okay, then we have P divided by 2 minus 2L divided by 2. Well, again, what's 2 over 2? I'm using the same color and that's going to mess me up. 2 divided by 2 cancels. Notice it was a negative 2 divided by a positive 2, so it should stay negative. So it'd be P divided by 2 minus L equals W. So again, if we use these numbers up here, if I have 24 as my perimeter, 24 divided by 2 minus, not L, minus 3 would give me whatever my W equals. So 24 divided by 2 is 12, minus 3, 12, 11, 10, 9. So 9 equals W. So really, you don't have to know this. All you have to know are these steps for solving a single equation or any equation for a variable inside of it. So notice this one was set where P equals. Now we want to solve it so that it's W equals. We did the same steps that we've been doing. The only thing is you have to leave the variable there. You can't actually do anything with it. So it's just solving an equation so that we would find the width instead of the perimeter.